You didn't build a business just to babysit it. You're booked solid, yet your most important work keeps slipping through the cracks. You're growing, sure, but if you stop pushing even for a second, everything stops. And that's not freedom. If you're already doing well but secretly feel maxed out, Dan Martell's Buy Back Your Time book just might change how you operate forever. In this video, I'm sharing 5 powerful lessons from Buy Back Your Time tailored for ambitious women who want to escape the burnout loop, reclaim their calendar, and build a business that runs without them. This book has helped me go from buried in tasks to actually thinking like a CEO, and I want to help you do the same. Let's begin with the shift that makes everything feel lighter and actually move faster. So let's start with the moment that no one wants to admit that they've hit, but most of us actually have. So running your business without boundaries is like standing in a pot of water that's slowly heating up. At first, it feels like a warm bath, but before you know it, you're poaching in stress soup and wondering why you're exhausted every darn day. Studies mentioned in the book actually show that burnout risk spikes when entrepreneurs have more than 12 direct reports or surpass 1 million in revenue because the complexity outpaces their systems. But from my work with clients and my own business, I know that burnout can even spike even just managing a VA and the million AI bots that you've created. So I had a client, let's call her Alexis. She was booked out, making bank, and borderline bitter because of the stress that came with it. From the outside, her business looked like a dream, but inside she was working 70 hours a week. She was hoarding decisions and micromanaging her small team because no one does it right. And when I asked her what her ideal week looked like, she paused and said, I don't even know what I want anymore. And that's what I call the pain line. So let me draw this out for you. The first thing that we want to do that Dan Martell explains in this book is to escape the pain line. And that pain line is when you're dealing with lots of fires, time traps, and mental taps open in your head. Here's how you know you've hit it. You're maxed out but can't point to what's actually moving the business forward. Your delegating feels harder than just doing it yourself, and you fantasize about a sabbatical or selling it all to go work at Sephora. Or maybe that's just me. Okay. But here's the thing. Your job isn't to just push through it. Your job is to pause and ask, what am I doing right now that no longer requires me to do it? So the assignment is to start a running list this week called Shouldn't Be Me. Every time you catch yourself doing something that someone else or AI or software could be trained to do, write it down. And that list is going to become your freedom blueprint. So in the book, Dan says, more effort isn't the answer, better boundaries are. And that's because I believe if the next level of growth costs you your peace, you're scaling wrong. So let's stop glorifying burnout and start designing boundaries that let you enjoy your dream life and intentionally get things done. So now that you've admitted the hustle's not sustainable, let's talk about how to take back your time without everything falling apart. Imagine your calendar like an overstuffed closet. Every drawer, every shelf, and hanger is crammed with tasks. Old habits, admin leftovers, responsibilities you outgrew 3 quarters ago. You're overwhelmed, not because you have too much to do, but because you haven't sorted what shouldn't be yours anymore. You need to audit it, you need to clear it, and refill it with what fits you now that you are the CEO. And this is where you reclaim control. And like I said, you do this with audit, transfer, and fill. Each step builds on the last. This is what Dan calls the buyback loop, and it's how you stop being busy and start being in charge. So here's where most ambitious women get stuck. They say, I don't have time to delegate, but the truth is you really can't afford not to. I remember before I went full-time in my business, actually hiring help and delegating was the only way I was able to do both, and thankfully my neuropsychologist salary allowed me to do so. Did I have to cut back on some other nice to haves at the time, like Sephora a run. So you're noticing a theme. And getting my nails and hair done, yes, but it was certainly worth it. And it allowed me to grow the business to finally be able to quit my full-time job to focus solely on how I was creating impact in my business. And actually at the time, because I was working a full-time job, I knew exactly my hourly rate. So if it could be outsourced for less, it was a no-brainer for me. But what about when you are full-time in your business? How do you know what your time is actually worth? So Dan explains it using his buyback rate formula. So let's break down your buyback rate. So here's the formula. It's your annual income divided by 2,000 hours and all of that divided by 4. That's your buyback rate. So let's say your business pays you $200K per year. 200K divided by 2,000 hours equals $100 an hour. That's your time value. And then that 100 divided by 4 is $25 an hour. That's your buyback rate. So if you're spending hours responding to customer emails, editing videos, or formatting slides when someone else could do it for you for less than $25 an hour, you're actually overpaying yourself with your most important currency, really, which is focus. So here's how to use Dan Martell's buyback loop this week. First, you're going to audit. So I'll link a video at the end that gives you my exact process for time auditing that has a free time audit template linked in that video. You're going to do a time audit. Second, you're going to transfer. So you're going to circle anything under the buyback rate in red. According to Dan, these are your delegate and automate ASAP tasks. And 3, you're going to fill that time with high impact work, which we're going to discuss in the next steps. But you want to fill these things with things like client attraction, product creation, CEO level decisions, strategic rest. So these are things that are you coded, I like to call them, and they're highly impacted on the business. In that other video, I talk about a matrix that can help you decide on those things. And a helpful reminder, if you don't fill the time with intention, it gets swallowed by more busy work. And we're not here to scale our to-do list, actually. We want to scale our impact. So if this sounds a bit confusing, I do have a free workshop coming up called Productive Boss that I teach how to create systems to manage your time as a boss and to get more organized in your business. You can click the link in the description to sign up. Okay, so let's dive deeper. You've started to buy back your time, which is so great. Now let's make sure you don't just refill it with more noise. So think of your week like fridge space. You finally cleared out all the expired leftovers and that mystery Tupperware. But if you're not careful, you'll just fill that space up with more random snacks and processed food to-dos that don't actually fuel you. So to keep your time clean and valuable, you need a system that tells you what actually deserves to be here. Enter the drip filter. So this is directly from the book, The Drip Filter. And what this is going to do is going to help you prioritize genius work. And this is really similar to my boss matrix that I created for me and my own clients before even reading this book. So it made me happy to know that we were actually on the right track. Here's how to run this drip filter this week. Take your shouldn't be me list from earlier, and then secondly, drop each task into one of these 4 boxes. One is to delegate. These are low money, low energy tasks that you're going to offload fast. The second quadrant is replace. These are high money, low energy, so build toward replacing yourself here with specialist. 3 is invest, which are low money, high energy, so nurture these. These are creative projects, our networking and visibility. And then 4 is produce, high money, high energy. Protect this quadrant like it's sacred, he says. Your calendar should reflect this quadrant the most. So remember, you're not scaling tasks, you're scaling your capacity to stay in the zone where you thrive. In fact, Dan Martell explains that most entrepreneurs spend way too much time in the replace quadrant. That's the work that's important, maybe even profitable, but it drains your energy. And drained energy equals low quality decisions. He says it equals short patience and resenting the very thing that you've built. And an important insight that I got from the book is just because it pays doesn't mean it belongs on your plate. Start choosing tasks based on alignment, not obligation, so you can intentionally get things done and enjoy your dream life without running yourself into the ground. So now that you know what work should be yours, here's the next challenge. How do you get the rest off of your plate without it boomeranging back to you in a panicked DM? Imagine walking into a busy restaurant kitchen and realizing There's no recipes here. Everyone's guessing. No one's seasoning the same. Everybody's doing their same thing. And the head chef, which is you in this metaphor, can't leave because if you're not there, dinner doesn't get served. That's what running a business without systems is like. You don't have a team. You have people asking you for instructions all day. So the solution is to build your scale engine using scalable systems. So think SOPs, operating systems, using the 10-80-10 rule, which if you're unfamiliar with that 10-80-10 rule, it states you do the first 10%, so setting the vision of a task, and then your team or contractors, however you're working, does the middle 80%, which is the execution, and then you come back with the final 10% to tweak, approve, and polish to get the thing done, making sure it's according to your vision. And these systems might also include things that just make it easier for you if it has to stay on your plate, like templates, checklists, software integrations, and AI assistance. But here's the thing. Most bottlenecks don't happen because you don't have help. They happen because the people helping you don't actually have clarity. Dan Martell uses what he calls the camcorder method to solve this and makes SOPs a breeze. So you're going to record yourself doing the task, narrating as you go using something like Loom. That's your training doc. Done. It's super easy. You don't need a fancy playbook. You need to stop gatekeeping how things get done in your brain and start documenting it. And he also, I just saw him speak on a podcast, say that once he uses that camcorder method, he has the person that's taking over that implementation to do an official SOP using that Loom video. So here's how to start building your skill engine this week. Pick a repeatable task that you do at least once a week. Use Loom or your phone to record yourself doing it, explaining what you're doing and why, and then send it to your assistant or a team member and ask them to turn it into a checklist, execute it on their own next time, and then repeat this with one task a week. A bonus tip, if it's not repeatable, you probably shouldn't be doing it in the first place because freedom isn't a vibe, it's a system, and systems are what let you enjoy your dream life while still growing your empire. And like I said, don't forget to sign up for my free live workshop, Productive Boss, linked below, where I will dive deep on how to get organized in your business using systems. So everything we've talked about, the tasks you've let go of, the systems that you've built, it's all for this. Not to do nothing, to just kind of sit around and not do anything, but to do what only you can do. Think of your business like a geode crystal. From the outside, it's a little rough, but once you start peeling back the outer layers, those fire drills, the admin chaos, decision fatigue, you finally hit the center. And that crystal clear core is your genius zone. It's where your unique skills, energy, and passion collide. And when you operate from that zone, your business doesn't just run, it compounds. Like, it's not the sum of parts, it's more like exponential when you live in your genius zone. So do only what you can do and delegate the rest or automate it or systemize it. Dan Martell says most entrepreneurs are stuck doing $20 hour tasks while leaving $2,000 hour results on the table. So you're not just your business's founder, you're its visionary, its creative engine, and the strategic protector. When you focus on the work that gives you energy, the whole system grows. And I will say, if you have a focused infopreneur business like me, you may not even need a lot of people to do this. James Clear, the author of Atomic Habits, once said that he runs his multi-million-dollar business with just himself and a VA. You may just need an editor and a VA and a fractional integrator or something, a projects manager. Whatever the size of your business or your team, the point is to use the time that you buy back to focus on energizing strategic work. I want you to ask yourself this: what's the one thing I do that when I do it, everything else gets easier or unnecessary? And then block protected time on your calendar to do more of that. Audit your week every Friday to check, did I operate from my genius zone or get pulled back into the weeds? Like, what is that? Is that Scarface? You know what I'm saying. So say no to anything that robs your zone unless it aligns with your mission and your joy. Because when you guard your genius, you give your business permission to grow without sacrificing you, which I'm all about. Freedom isn't about doing less when you have a business that you love. It's actually about doing what only you can do. And what I've learned from this book is that when you stay in that genius zone, you intentionally get things done while actually enjoying your dream life, which we love over here on this corner of the internet. So if your shoulders dropped a little during this video, good. That's what it feels like when your business starts working with you instead of against you. If you want help mapping out your own genius zone, building systems, and actually getting organized behind the scenes, like I mentioned, I'm hosting a free workshop called Productive Boss, where I'll walk you through the exact systems that help you stay consistent without burning out. Be sure to save your seat. It's free at the link below. Plus, like I said, watch this video next to learn my strategies for time auditing and get my free time audit template. Until next time, cheers to planning, manifesting, and enjoying your dream life. Namaste.